Good afternoon. The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privileges of the floor will please retire to the gallery. I now respectfully request that whoever is in charge of this plexiglass would have it removed by the end of the day. Thank you. The senators and all in attendance, please stand. We will be led in prayer by the Reverend Jonathan V. Adams of Trinity Episcopal Church of Upperville. He is accompanied in the gallery today by Sam Meek. Following the prayer, everyone will please remain standing, and we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by our Senate page, Kate Kiggins of Virginia Beach.
Madam Governor, Senate, thank you so much for allowing me to be here to lead you in prayer. My hope for you today is that you will get a lot of good work done. And so let's pray and ask God to help us do that. Let's pray. Father God, we pray today for this group of senators as they prepare to do the hard work of legislation. May they honor the oath they made to the people who voted them into office. And may they write and modify laws that reflect the citizens of the great state of Virginia. Lord, I ask that you give each one of these representatives wisdom, a heart for debate, an appropriate know-how for compromise. May this be a day when every lawmaker walks away feeling as if they gave their all and good was done for the people of the Commonwealth. In addition, I ask a special blessing on the families that are back home while these senators serve their state. Be with children today who may not have moms or dads at their special event. Give the significant others that are there taking care of the home front a special dose of grace. In closing, we ask that peace would come to the world, especially Ukraine and Russia. May these two neighbors truly be able to love one another as you love us. We ask that guns be laid down and negotiation made. Give the United States wisdom to be involved, and quickly. In the name above every name, amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will call the roll. All those present, please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Madam President. Senate Journal for Friday, February 25th, 2022.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 5.
Ayes 35, noes 5. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will now report any communications from the House of Delegates. Chair Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Sasslaw.
Madam President, I move that we waive the reading of the communications from the House of Delegates.
The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All in favor of waiving the communication from the House of Delegates, the reading of it, will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
5.
Ayes 34, noes 5. The reading of the communication is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the governor.
We do not have any, Madam President.
Now comes the time in the morning hour when we are going to hear about our distinguished guests in the gallery. We thank you for coming. We thank you for wanting to see your I almost said parliament as I'm thinking about the Ukrainian people, but to see your government up close and personal. And so with that, what's going to happen, you are going to be recognized, and we will hold our applause until we hear all about your wonderfulness. And with that, I now call on the senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Good morning, Madam President.
Good morning.
I rise for purposes of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to ask the members of the body to join me in thanking the Reverend Jonathan Adams for our beautiful prayer this morning, for opening this body with those very appropriate words at a time such as this. Jonathan is a great person and a great addition to my community. He is the rector of Trinity Episcopal Church in Upperville, which is my church. He came in July of 2020 and has had a huge impact on our church community. He is so much fun. He brought his wife, Jana, and their 3 children, one of whom, Caleb, is in my daughter Olivia's class. I think together they turned the class upside down, actually. But Jonathan has had a distinguished career in the ministry, both overseas as well as a children's ministry that has been very successful. His last church was in Texas, and prior to that, he started a church in Georgia. And so I just love Jonathan so much and was so appreciative and honored that he would come and start off our morning. So I would just ask that the members of the body please join me in welcoming Jonathan and thanking him, and then I will also introduce his guest. Thank you.
Good morning again, Reverend. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your prayer. Thank you for all you're doing in the community, which, of course, extrapolates to our great Commonwealth. Senators, let us please give him the warm welcome of his Senate. Chair again recognizes the gentlelady from Fauquier.
Thank you, Madam President. Jonathan is here today with a friend of ours and of his, Sam Meek, who came down with him. And Sam deserves his own introduction. He is a very successful entrepreneur. Madam President, you will be happy to know he is also a Marine. He's a Marine sergeant. And he has started something that I think some of you have heard about. He's the CEO and co-founder of Sandbox, which is, I think, known to you as a very successful and innovative way for our men and women in the armed services to communicate with one another. He lives in Middleburg, and he's here today, and I would also ask that you please extend to him the very warm welcome of the Senate.
Good morning, Marine. Semper Fi. You are surrounded by quite a few Marines, as well as many others here who have served in our armed forces. And we thank you for the work that you're doing and for your continued service to our country. Thank you very much. And senators, let us give him the warm welcome of our Senate.
Madam President, I have one more introduction.
The senator has the floor.
I know, Madam President, nobody ever comes to see me in the Senate. And today it's the trifecta. I have one more introduction, and I am so delighted that I have a family from the community where I live. They live in Aldie. It is Jennifer and her husband, Jonathan, and their 3 children, Ellie, Abigail, and Jonah. and their last name is El Khoury, and they live in Aldi, and they are a really special family. Their children are incredibly accomplished. Abigail is in the 7th grade with my son, and she helped organize the parents, actually, in the 7th grade recently on some super important issues that came up in our school. And so Abigail is a future leader, not only in our community, but probably in all of Virginia and maybe beyond. So I'm very proud of her. And I was super excited that she actually wanted to come and see what happens here in her capital and in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I'll just take a minute to tell you, Jonathan, her dad, immigrated from Jordan and started his own business here. Jennifer, their mom, is the mom of that rowdy bunch, and she's also an engineer. Jonah is a 9th grader at Evergreen Christian School, and this is a big deal. He scored a perfect score on the National Latin exam. I happen to know a whole lot about that, so those kids are no dummies. I'll say that for sure. He also builds computers. Abigail, the one I mentioned before, she's a ballerina, and she's a 7th grader at the Hill School. And then Ellie finally is a 4th grader, and she is a great horse lover. And so, Madam President, if you would please extend to them the very warm welcome of the Senate, and I hope that they enjoy the rest of their day touring the Capitol and attending some committees. And thank you, Madam President.
Good morning again to you, and thank you for coming once again to see this half of your government anyway in action. It's a wonderful thing to be free people. And young man, we understand that you scored a perfect score on Latin, and so you would have heard the phrase that I gave to our Marine, semper. It's also part of the Virginia, what is the word I'm looking for? The Virginia motto, which is also semper. Sic semper tyrannis. So, you know that means. There you are. Thank you again for coming. And senators, let us give him the warm welcome of his Senate. Chair recognizes the junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Kiggins.
Madam President, I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, we have with us today Patty Opera, who's a constituent of mine from Virginia Beach. She is representing the Irish American Society of Tidewater today. She's a 2021 Irish American princess and someone who's just very active in promoting our Irish heritage. And my mother's side of the family is direct descendant from Ireland, so I certainly appreciate all her efforts and that of her community in our local area just to preserve our Irish heritage. So thank you so much for being here with us, and please give her the warm welcome of the Senate.
Oh, no, you have to rise so that we can officially welcome you. Thank you again for coming. Good afternoon to you, and I have not Latin nor an Irish brogue, but but thank you so much for being here. And let us give her the warm welcome of her Senate. Senators. Chair recognizes a gentleman from Lynchburg, Senator Peake.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Today we have visiting from my district, Goochland County, Ellie Creasy. She is here in the gallery with her 5th grade girls basketball team from St. Mary's Catholic School. I know. The senator from Henrico is going to be introducing the entire squad in a minute.
Oh, okay.
But I wanted to get one constituent, so just one at a time. Thank you, Ellie. Ellie is here with her mother, Grace Creasy, who you may recognize from roaming the halls of the Pocahontas building as executive director of Virginia Council for Private Education. But Ellie is also the daughter of Goochland County Sheriff Stephen Creasy. So she works very hard keeping her father straight and Goochland County straight. And I'd like you to please give the warm welcome of the Senate to Ellie Creasy.
Good morning, young lady, or I should say good afternoon. Thank you for coming to watch your government in action, and keep up the good work. And we know you're keeping the sheriff straight. Senators, let us give her the warm welcome of her Senate. Chair recognizes the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, members of this body, you may have seen some folks in the Pocahontas building with the blue and orange. They are not from the University of Virginia, but today, rather, we're welcoming the faculty and staff and students from Virginia State University. Virginia State University is a 1890 land-grant university, and it offers its students education in the fields of agriculture, engineering, family and consumer sciences, and military sciences. I did not know, Madam President, that they had their genesis of this university was land grant and agriculture until I went down and visited Virginia State University, toured their extensive farms. It's amazing what they're doing. Virginia State University is developing leaders with the knowledge, skills, and disposition to be globally competitive. As I mentioned earlier, we have faculty, staff, and students. I'm going to mention a few of them. Today, joining us in the gallery is Virginia State University's Provost, Dr. Donald Palm. We also have Dr. Julie Coleman, who was the director of VCAN and Strategic Initiatives, more on that later, and Alexis Brooks Walter, the Assistant Vice President for Enrollment. VCAN, which I just mentioned, it's the initiative that allows students that otherwise did not have the resources to go to college to receive tuition, room and board, meals, and Virginia State University has given over 300 full-time VCAN scholarships to its students, Madam President. 300 students from the 25-mile radius are able to attend Virginia State University because of VCAN. And I've had an opportunity to meet some of those scholars. Joining us in the gallery, we have Destiny and Diamond Scott. Destiny and Diamond are twins. They are junior VCAN scholars majoring in special education, and their goal is to become teachers in an inner-city school. Towards that end, they've already spent 90 hours of a practicum at Linwood Holton Elementary and are a member of Virginia State University's Honor Program. Also in attendance, we have members of the VSU Student Government Association, including the SGA President, Cameron Gray, who is a senior from Tupelo, Mississippi. I only knew one other person that ever went or hailed from Tupelo, Mississippi, and that's Elvis Presley. He's majoring in political science with a minor in mass communication. And also we have Destiny Sanders, the Vice President for Academic Affairs. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Eldon Burton. He is the Associate Vice President for Government Relations, who's also joined us here today. Madam President, I know that was a long introduction, but there are a lot of very noble folks that have joined us today, and I'd ask that you and the members of this body give the students, the scholars, the administrators, the staff, a Virginia State Senate welcome.
Good afternoon to you again, and I see that I'm wearing your colors. I must have known something, but I didn't. But, you know, you're a HBCU, and so many times you do hear, why do we need HBCUs, and why do we continue to need HBCUs? But I do note that HBCUs only make up 3% of all of the colleges and universities, and yet you graduate 20%, I believe, of all African American students, as well as 25% of STEM African American students. So that's why. And I believe you're 30% or something like that less than comparable universities, as I was reading. So thank you so very much for what you continue to do. And senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair now recognizes the senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, members of the Senate, we have in the gallery this morning or this afternoon champions. And I want to welcome St. Mary's Catholic School from Henrico County's 5th grade girls basketball team. They are here to celebrate. We have with us today Mary Catherine Vehorn, Lily Singleton, Ellie Creasy, who we already met, Emily Brown, Reagan Core, Virginia Dillard, Megan Dowdy, Sydney Duda, Lucy Heller, Allison Niederer, and Anna Shine. They are scholar athletes, Madam President. On Friday night, these girls won the championship of the Benedictine Schools of Richmond Basketball League. We're so proud of them. Madam President, St. Mary's is a co-ed Catholic elementary and middle school founded in 1967. It has 430 students pre-K through 8th grade. They were open all year last year and even some the year before. It's worth noting their rigorous academics. The middle school, the entire middle school, is an international baccalaureate program. I hope we will give them the warmest welcome in recognition of their many accomplishments, but especially last Friday night. And with that, Madam President, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, hello, ladies. Once again, thank you for coming. Thank you for wanting to be here to see your government. Never gets old to say that. And thank you for your accomplishments. And we hope to see even bigger things out of you in your academic fields. And so, senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
In the gallery today is former supervisor of Fairfax County in the Mount Vernon region named Jerry Highland. And I got to tell you, he has one of the most impressive list of accomplishments that I've ever seen. He got he was on the Planning Commission, and then in 1987 he was elected to the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, where he served for 28 years. In addition, if I started reading the list of all of the organizations that he belonged to or served on, like the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, Metropolitan Washington Area Transportation Authority, Chesapeake Bay, the commission's dealing with that. You can see from this, there are 2 full pages of all the organizations that he belonged to, and he compiled a very, very impressive record. And Madam Chairman, if this wasn't enough, he served 6 years in the Air Force and retired as a colonel. And like I said, it's a list of accomplishments like I have never seen. And as you know, I've been here quite a while. He's also accompanied today by Lisa Sales and Bill Bach. But I would ask that you please extend the warmest wishes of the Senate to former Supervisor Highland, who was one of the best elected officials Fairfax County ever had.
Colonel Highland, good afternoon, sir. Thank you for all that you have done for for the whole United States in your service, your military career, and what you did for the Commonwealth in your capacity of Board of Supervisor. And I can tell that you're a man who doesn't seek all of that credit, because as soon as he began to talk about all that you had done, you said to yourself, I saw you. I hope he doesn't say it all. And thank you for your humbleness. Thank you, sir. And senators, let us give him the warm welcome of his Senate. Thank you for your service. We salute you. The chair recognizes the junior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Senate. Today in the gallery, we have Beth Sinowick, and we actually met not too long ago. In fact, about an hour ago, as we were attending the governor's press conference on the need, all Virginians need tax relief. And we were over at the Family Foundation building, and I invited her to come over here and spend time in her Senate. She's a small business owner. She is actually involved with magazine sales and distribution, but she's also involved with Think Kevin Handyman Services Incorporated and affiliated with Chesapeake Angler Magazine. And she's really, if she could speak today, I think she would probably talk about how prices are going up and that we need to give it back. We need to make sure that we're returning taxes. They need to come down, and we need to give any extra money back to the people of Virginia. With that, Madam President, I would ask you to give our special guest today the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you for coming. Good afternoon. Would you please stand? There you are, looking in the wrong direction. Thank you very much, and thank you for being involved in your government, in the electoral process, and for voicing your opinion. There's so many countries you cannot do that, and we thank God that we can. And so, senators, let us give her the warm welcome of her Senate. Is there any other business to come for the morning hour?
Madam Chair, Madam President.
Chair recognizes a gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County, Senator Boysko.
Madam President, I rise for an introduction and a motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Walking into the gallery right now are some special friends. This is a difficult day for them. They passed a very, very serious milestone yesterday. This is the family of Adam Oakes. And I'm grateful that they're here with us today because we're going to be passing a bill that is lovingly named after him, Adam's Law, in a few minutes, I hope, on the uncontested calendar. But as I said, yesterday was the anniversary of our loss of Adam, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about him. Adam was a constituent of mine. He grew up in Potomac Falls, and his mom and dad, Eric and Linda Oakes, are here with us, as well as family members, Courtney White, who's been here with us before, Evelyn and Jerry Tanner, Leslie and Steve Pritchard, Joe and Taylor Cook, Allison Cook, and Jeff Houchins. Adam, when he was a little boy, loved to play Little League baseball and basketball and football. He loved to play video games, was a graduate of Potomac Falls High School, and he loved the beach in North Carolina, where his family would go and gather for vacations together. And he couldn't wait to play with the little cousins that he had in the water. He had a very tightly knit family, and they have gone above and beyond. We have worked together for the full year since we lost Adam to try to use this painful tragedy in their lives and in the lives of the friends that he had to prevent that from anybody else happening. And so first, I ask that you give them a warm welcome, and I make a motion that today when we adjourn, that we adjourn in memory of Adam Oakes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam President.
Good afternoon to you again. And your son did not die in vain. Adam is making his mark on this world by having a law passed that will help someone else's child. And for that, we thank Adam that he was born and that you gave him to us. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Is there any other business to come for the morning hour? Hearing none, the clerk will now call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Monday, February 28th, 2022. Unfinished business House. House Bill 1304. The House has rejected the Senate amendment.
Madam President, Boyce, go over here.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County, Senator Boysko.
I would like that we could pass that by for the day. One more day, please.
Yes, ma'am. Without objection.
House Bill 764. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we insist on our substitute and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute to House Bill 764 and respectfully request a committee of conference on the bill? All in favor of the motion, please record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, no 0.
Ayes 37, no 0. Rule 36-3. The Senate insists and requests a committee of conference.
House Bill 1060. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise for a motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate insist on its substitute and respectfully request a committee of conference. Thank you.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute to House Bill 1060 and respectfully request a committee of conference on the bill? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate insists and requests a committee of conference.
We are awaiting House action on House Bill 979. Unfinished business Senate. Senate Bill 149 passed the House with an amendment.
Senator Norman, the gentleman from James City County.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I would respectfully ask that you accept the amendments as proposed by the House of Delegates. This has not been a controversial bill, having not received one negative vote up to this point. The language was tweaked, and I think it is appropriate. The bill deals with parental and juvenile access to their own records and maintained in the court in the absence of any pending litigation. The language was changed to delete by order of the court and more broadly said that it will be accessible only if no other law or rule of the Supreme Court of Virginia requires the withholding of it. I would respectfully ask that you accept the amendment.
The question is, shall the Senate accept the House amendments on Senate Bill 149? All those in favor of accepting those amendments will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The House amendment is accepted.
Senate Bill 316 has passed the House with amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Marsden, the gentleman from Western Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move that we accept the House amendments, and speaking to that.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The underlying bill deals with memorandums of understanding between local juvenile courts and agencies of social services. And in the original bill, it was the local circuit court judge who would review and approve the memorandums of understanding. And what the House amendment does is change that to the Attorney General's office, which I think will provide greater consistency in the review of those memorandums of understanding. And I would ask again that we accept the House amendments.
The question is, shall the Senate accept the House amendments on Senate Bill 316? Those in favor of acceptance will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The amendments are accepted.
Senate Bill 658 has passed the House with amendment.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we accept the House amendment, and speaking to that.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The House amendment is technical. There was a typo where the word evidence was not included, so this just puts the E back in perk kit.
The question is, shall the Senate accept the House amendment on Senate Bill 658? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The amendment is accepted.
Uncontested calendars, House bills on third reading. Oh, sorry, I missed one. Senate Bill 683 has passed the House with amendment.
Senator Marsden, the gentleman from Western Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to speak to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move that we accept the House amendments to this bill. The bill simply clarifies what broadband and communications equipment to subject to the existing exemptions so that companies have certain certainty when making investment decisions. And all the House did was remove the clause. And with that, I would ask that we accept the House amendments.
The question is, shall the Senate accept the House amendment on Senate Bill 683? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The amendment is accepted.
Uncontested calendar, House bills on third reading.
Chair calls on the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all House bills on third reading on the uncontested calendar, that's on pages 5 through 27, House Bill 65 through House Bill 1364, that they be advanced to their final passage in a block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, and any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
There are 64 bills in the section. The question is, shall House bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 5 through 27, House Bill 65 through 1364, be placed upon their final passage in a block after the adoption of the amendments thereto, with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
House Bill 65, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 84, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 93, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 99, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 145, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 150, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 192, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 193, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 334, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments.
Chair calls on the gentlelady from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee amendment be agreed to.
Question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is agreed to. Senator Lucas.
Yes, speaking to the bill, Madam President, what the bill does, it provides...
Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Lucas. This is on a block vote. That was my bad. Sorry about that.
I was just going to respond to what you were asking me to do.
Yes, ma'am.
House Bill 235, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 239, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 264, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 281, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 284, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute.
Chair calls on Senator Barker, the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County.
I move the committee substitute.
Question is, shall the committee substitute be accepted? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee substitute is accepted.
House Bill 285, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 286, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 307, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with amendment.
Chair calls on Senator Barker, the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County. Page 10.
Yes, Madam President, I move that the committee amendment be adopted.
Question is, shall the amendment be accepted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. Committee amendment is accepted.
House Bill 400, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 404, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary. House Bill 422, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary. House Bill 474, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 502, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary. House Bill 525, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
Chair calls on Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
House Bill 526, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 557, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary. House Bill 663, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments.
Chair again recognizes Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that committee amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
House Bill 679, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 684, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments.
Chair again recognizes the gentlelady from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that House Bill 684 that the committee members be agreed to.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
House Bill 718, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 727, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 731, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with amendment.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move that the committee amendment be adopted.
Question is, shall the committee amendment be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is adopted.
House Bill 761, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with a substitute.
Chair recognizes again the gentleman from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
House Bill 800, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 814, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 815, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 869, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with amendments.
Gentleman from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move that the committee amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
House Bill 900, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 910, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 933, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 939, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 964, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with an amendment.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is agreed to.
House Bill 970, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute.
Chair recognizes again the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee substitute be agreed upon.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
House Bill 990, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 994, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 1001, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the amendment be agreed to.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
House Bill 1023, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 1063, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 1065, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 1102, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Hampton, Senator Lucas.
Senator Locke.
I'm sorry, Senator Locke. Thank you.
Madam President, could House Bill 1102 come out of the block and by for the day?
Yes, ma'am, without objection. House Bill 1102 is out of the block and by for the day.
House Bill 1129, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 1132, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary.
Madam President. Madam Bob Peake, Lynchburg.
Yes, sir.
Freedom Corner.
Senator Peake.
Thank you, Madam President. May House Bill 1132 come out of the block and go by for the day.
Without objection, House Bill 1132 is out of the block and by for the day.
Madam President.
The senator from Roanoke County, Senator Sudeline.
President. And on the previous page, I'd like to ask that House Bill 1065, which is on page 22, please come out of the block.
Without objection, House Bill 1065 is out of the block.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Franklin County,
Thank you,
Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to join in on the fun. Can House Bill 900 on page 18 come out of the block and go by for the day, please?
That was 900?
900.
Without objection, House Bill 900 is out of the block.
And by for the day.
And by for the day.
Thank you.
Returning to page 23, House Bill 1187, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
House Bill 1191.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Madam President. May I respectfully ask that House Bill 1187 be removed from the block and passed by for the day.
Without objection, House Bill 1187 is out of the block and by for the day.
House Bill 1191, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
House Bill 1234, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary. House Bill 1236, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary. House Bill 1265, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with amendments.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee amendments be adopted.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
House Bill 1269, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 1278, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary. House Bill 1282, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with amendment.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move that the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
House Bill 1287, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. House Bill 1299, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 1327, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Edwards, the gentleman from Roanoke City.
Madam President, I move that the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
House Bill 1328, reported from the Committee on Education and Health.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Sorovell.
Thank you, Madam President. Can House Bill 1328 come out of the block so I can continue my one-man crusade against the tyranny of immunity?
Without objection, House Bill 1328, page 27, is out of the block.
House Bill 1364, Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Barker, the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. The question is, shall the House bills pass en bloc? That is, all bills except for House Bill 1102, 1132, 1065, 900, 1187, 1328 on pages 18, 22, 27, all in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Returning to page 22. House Bill 1065.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill deals with...
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. And this bill, I move that the bill be passed, and that this bill is a bill dealing with issues surrounding manufactured home lot rental agreements. And what is proposed in the bill is to establish a work group to come up with recommendations as to how to make things work a little better for those people who have homes that are manufactured homes.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The bill passes.
On page 27, House Bill 1328.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, House Bill 1328 is the companion bill to the bill that was carried here in the Senate, and it requires the Board of Education to amend its regulations to require each early childhood care and education entity to implement policies for the possession and administration of epinephrine in every such entity to be administered by a nurse at the entity, employee at the entity, or employee at the local health department who is authorized by a prescriber and trained in administration of epinephrine to any child believed to be having an anaphylactic reaction. Madam President, with that explanation, I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The bill passes.
Regular calendar, House bills on third reading. House Bill 19, Virginia Public Procurement Act, Public Higher Educational Institutions, Disclosure by Offerers. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with an amendment.
There are 15 bills in this section. Chair now calls on the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. I move passage, first of all,
of the committee amendments.
The committee amendment.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be accepted? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Committee amendments are accepted. Again, the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move to have that the bill be passed. And speaking to the bill.
The gentleman has the floor.
Yes. This bill is identical to one that passed the Senate earlier in this session, Senate Bill 210. It deals with public procurement, particularly related to the construction companies and construction operators that develop projects for higher education institutions. What it does is it requires any bidder who gets a contract with a higher education institution of at least $5 million must report publicly if they have contributed $25,000 or more within the previous 5 years to that higher education institution. So it's simply a disclosure act. It's not. There's no wrongdoing. There's no penalties or anything related to it other than willfully not reporting what's required. And with that, I renew my motion that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 3.
Ayes 37, noes 3. The bill passes.
House Bill 419, Institutions of Higher Education, Education Preparation Programs, Coursework Audit. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill pass. And speaking to that bill.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, what it does, it requires each education preparation program offered by a public institution of higher education or private institution of higher education that provides training for any student seeking initial licensure by the Department of Education to include a program of coursework and require all such students to demonstrate mastery in science-based reading research and evidence-based literacy instructions, and require such program of coursework and student mastery required to be demonstrated therein to be consistent with definitions and expectations established by the Board of Education. With that, Madam President, I renew my motion to for the bill to pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 27, noes 13.
Ayes 27, noes 13. The bill passes.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Roanoke County, Senator Sudeline.
Before we get too far away from it, having voted on the prevailing side, I'd move that we reconsider the vote by which we passed House Bill 19 so that one of our colleagues can correct their vote to match their previous vote.
House Bill 19 or 419?
19, ma'am.
Page 27. The question is, shall the vote by which House Bill 19 passed be reconsidered? Those in favor of reconsideration will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The vote is reconsidered. Again, Senator Barker, the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move passage of the bill and speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Having been recently explained, I'll just renew my motion that this bill pass. So.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 4.
Ayes 36, noes 4. The bill passes.
House Bill 582, Higher Educational Institutions Public Notice to Students SNAP Benefits.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas.
On Education and Health.
Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill pass and speaking to the measure.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, what the bill does, it requires each public institution of higher education to ensure that all students have access to accurate information about the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, including eligibility and how to apply. The bill also directs each institution to advertise the application and process for applying for SNAP prominently on the institution's website and in orientation materials that are distributed to each new student. And with that explanation, I again move that the bill pass.
Question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill passes.
House Bill 669, Swimming Pools and Water Recreational Facilities, Study to determine whether VDH should regulate. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill pass and speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, what House Bill 669 does, it directs the Commissioner of Health to convene a work group to study whether swimming pools and other water recreational facilities for public use or use in conjunction with a tourist facility or health spa should be regulated by the Department of Health, and requires the work group to report its findings and recommendations to the governor and the chairman of the House Committee on Health, Welfare and Institution, and the Senate Committee on Education and Health by November 1, 2023. With that explanation, I again renew my motion that the bill pass.
Question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
House Bill 702, Virginia Residential Property Disclosure Act, required disclosures, maximum lot coverage, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
Chair recognizes Senator Barker, the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass and speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
This bill, House Bill 702, addresses an issue that, if it passes, would be required. Provision of inclusion in the Property Disclosure Act for residential properties by the owner of the lot. That the lot lines are not necessarily where they are reported to be, and does not vouch for them, and also does not indicate whether or not the potential buyer would be able to expand or renovate or add to any other structures to the property there. And with that disclosure that would be made, I again move for passage of the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? Sure. The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, noes 7, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 32, noes 7, Rule 36-1. The bill passes.
House Bill 745, respiratory therapist practice pending licensure. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the bill,
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, House Bill 745 provides that a person who has graduated from an accredited respiratory therapy education program may practice with the title respiratory therapist. Licensed applicants or RT applicants until he or she has received a failing score on any examination required by the board for licensure, or 6 months from the date of the graduation, whichever occurs sooner. With that explanation, Madam President, I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill passes.
House Bill 802, Virginia Residential Landlord and Tenant Act enforcement by localities. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
Senator Barker, the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that this bill be passed by for the day.
Without objection, House Bill 802 passes by for the day.
House Bill 891, non-citizens of the United States remove certain terminology in the Code of Virginia. Reported from the Committee on the Judiciary.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move that House Bill 891 pass. And
Yes, sir.
Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Yeah, Madam President, all this does is change the name, the terminology, from legal resident alien to, quote, lawfully admitted permanent resident. The reason is apparently some people think the word alien has negative implications. I don't, but some people do. And so we're changing the name to make it clear that it's lawful, admitted, permanent resident of the United States as opposed to a legal resident alien. With that explanation, I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 18.
Ayes 22, noes 18. The bill passes.
House Bill 896, nurse practitioner, patient care team provider. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the measure.
Senator has the floor.
Yes, ma'am. The bill, Madam President, eliminates authority of a physician on a patient care team to require a nurse practitioner practicing as a part of a patient care team to be covered by a professional liability insurance policy, and the requirement that a nurse practitioner practicing without a practice agreement obtain and maintain coverage by or be named insured on a professional liability insurance policy. And with that, Madam President, I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The bill passes.
House Bill 1004, 2-year college transfer grant, etc. Eligibility removes registry for selective service. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill pass. And speaking to House Bill 1004.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, what the bill does, it removes the requirement that individuals registered for the Selective Service in compliance with federal law in order to be eligible for a 2-year college transfer grant and the Virginia Tuition Assistance Grants Program. I move the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes.
House Bill 1043, Youth Sports League background checks and training requirements for coaches and staff. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health, and we have a floor amendment.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Portsmouth. It's a floor amendment. Okay. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. Move to waive the reading of the floor amendment.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? Those in favor of waiving the reading will record their votes. Will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the floor amendment be agreed to and speak to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, you can chalk this one up to the if you can't beat them, join them theory. This is a study bill, so it does not mandate background checks or training for youth sports coaches, but it does ask the Department of Education to study the issue. It has stakeholders from both child sexual assault survivor groups as well as youth sports leagues. Not my only concern, but my main concern is what effect this might have on parent participation in youth leagues. And so basically I just drafted a one-line sentence to just make that part of the study, and that's the sum and substance of it. Thank you.
The question is, shall the floor amendment be accepted? Those in favor of agreeing to the floor amendment will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The floor amendment is agreed to. Senator Lucas.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, I move that the bill pass to include the floor amendment. And, Madam President, what the bill does...
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. It directs the Department of Education to make recommendations regarding appropriate background checks and training requirements for coaches, staff members, and other volunteers of competitive sports leagues in which persons under the age of 18 participate. The bill requires the Department of Education to consult with child sex assault victims and advocates and youth competitive sports leagues in making its recommendations and to submit to the Governor and the General Assembly a report of its recommendations not later than November 1st, 2022. With that, Madam President, I move the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 23, noes 17.
Ayes 23, no 17. The bill passes.
House Bill 1138, Loudoun County School Board, staggering of members' terms, lot drawing time frame. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill pass and speaking to the measure.
Senator has the floor.
Yes, ma'am. What House Bill 1138 does, it requires the lot drawing required to be conducted by the Loudoun County Electoral Board to determine the members of 4 of 9 districts who will be elected to the Loudoun County School Board for 4-year terms and the members of the remaining 5 districts who will be elected to the Loudoun County School Board for 2-year terms to ensure the staggering of members' terms for such school boards to be conducted at the Electoral Board's first meeting of 2023, but not later than January 31, 2023. Madam President, I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 39, no 0, Rule 36-1. The bill passes.
House Bill 1272, Public Elementary and Secondary Schools, etc., Student Instruction, reported from the Committee on Education and Health.
Chair recognizes the senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill pass. Speaking to the bill?
Yes, ma'am. Senator has the floor.
Thank you. The bill requires, except in the case of the 10 unscheduled remote learning days otherwise permitted by law, or in certain cases of student discipline, each school board to offer in-person instructions as defined in the bill to each student enrolled in the local school division in a public elementary or secondary school for at least the minimum number of required annual instructional hours, and to each student enrolled in the local school division in a public school-based early childhood care and education program for the entirety of the instructional time provided pursuant to such programs. Madam President, with that explanation, I again renew my motion that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 23, no 17.
Ayes 23, no 17. The bill passes.
House Bill 1286, Housing Authorities Law, Notice of Intent to Dispose of Housing Projects, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
Chair recognizes Senator Barker, the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass.
Senate will be in order. Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam President, this bill deals with the Housing Authority under U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development projects, and it requires that owners of such projects, if they want to liquidate, sell, to demolish, or otherwise dispose of the property, right now they have to provide a notice at least 12 months in advance of when they would the transfer or demolition of the project would be accomplished. What this bill does is it brings that period of time down to just 6 months for the period of time from notice intent until the action being taken. But it does provide protection for the renters who are in that project, in that they have 12 months in which to move before they are required to do so. And with that, I renew my motion to pass the bill.
Chair. The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Madam President. Madam President, over here.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Madam President. Before we move too far, having voted on the prevailing side by which we just passed House Bill 1272.
If she can announce this vote first.
Yes, let's announce this vote, sir, and then we'll come back to you.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. The bill passes. Now, the senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Madam President. I apologize to the clerk for interrupting. Having voted on the prevailing side by which we just passed House Bill 1272, I'd move we reconsider that vote so a member can correct his vote.
Without objection, returning to page 31, House Bill 1272. The question is, shall the vote by which it passed be reconsidered? Those in favor of reconsideration will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill is before us again. Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Having previously been described, I move again that House Bill 1272 pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 18.
Ayes 22, noes 18. The bill passes.
House Bill 1339. Facial recognition technology redefines local law enforcement and campus police to utilize. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with an amendment, and there is a floor sub.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam President. With a recommendation that it be rejected, I move the committee amendment be adopted.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Hanover, Senator McDougall.
Madam President, before we take action on that motion, would the gentleman yield for a few questions?
Sure.
Will the gentleman yield? Senator McDougall.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, ask the gentleman, can he go through the differences between the floor substitute that's to be presented and the committee substitute?
I'll do it, George.
Senator Barker.
I just saw the floor substitute when I got here today, so I've not had time to review through that, so I cannot provide that clarification.
Madam President.
Senator McDougall.
Would the senator from Eastern Fairfax yield for a question?
Will the senator yield? Senator McDougall.
Madam President, I'd ask the senator from Eastern Fairfax if he could articulate what position this will put the bill in. Will it be the same as it left the Senate originally, conformed just to the House version, or are there different points?
Senator Sorovell.
Thank you, Madam President. So the floor substitute, the committee substitute originally conformed the bill to the House version. And then in the House General Laws Committee, it came out during testimony that that none of this applies to Virginia State Police. And we all thought that it should apply to the Virginia State Police. So the only thing that the floor sub does is basically takes everything we're doing and makes it applicable to the Virginia State Police, just like local police and campus police.
Senator McDougall, further question?
Madam President, I ask the gentleman an additional question.
Will the senator from Eastern Fairfax County yield?
I'll yield.
Senator McDougall.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I'd ask the gentleman, so the version that came out of the Senate, is that reflected in either the committee substitute or the floor substitute, or was that not considered at all by the Senate on the House bill?
Senator Sorovell.
Madam President, I was going to save all this for once I got to explain the floor sub, but the differences between this bill, the differences between the floor sub, the orange one, and what you voted on earlier is, number one, it applies everything we're doing to the Virginia State Police, who currently have no restrictions on them and are currently doing facial recognition today with no restriction whatsoever other than the United States Constitution. And then it also, the other changes are, if you look at lines 14 through 30, it has a much, I think, sort of tighter description of what authorized uses are, especially when it comes to the community welfare stuff. It has a list of, I think, about 12 different specific community welfare uses as opposed to just some broad enabling language. And then on lines 71 to 73, it also says that the technology may not be used until the Virginia State Police and the local police department adopts a memorandum and a policy and publishes it stating how they're going to use it. And then the other change is in the enactment clause at the end. The second enactment basically states that the Department of Criminal Justice Services is supposed to analyze and report on the usage of this technology and include in its analysis recommendations for improving the use of technology as it relates to demographics, race, et cetera, and whether there ought to be any changes to the policy. And then the last difference is the third enactment clause, which puts a 5-year or a 4-year sunset on the bill. And those are the differences between what you saw before and what's before you right now.
Madam President,
Senator McDougall.
I'd like to ask the senator one more question.
Does the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County yield?
I'll yield.
Senator McDougall.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd ask the senator, so neither the committee substitute nor the floor substitute reflect what the Senate did on your bill as it left this body. Is that accurate?
Senator Sorovell.
Madam Chairman, I'd say that's not accurate. The House basically took what the Senate did and then added the 5 things I just said to it, and that's what you have.
Thank the gentleman.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Sorovell.
Sure, Madam President. Speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, in order to get this in a proper posture, we need to reject the committee substitute as the chairman just recommended so we can do this floor substitute, which makes sure this applies to the Virginia State Police. So I would ask that you reject the motion.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. No. The noes have it. The committee amendment is rejected. Senator Sorovell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd move to waive reading of the floor substitute.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor substitute be waived? Those in favor of waiving the reading of the floor substitute will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator Sorovell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd move the floor substitute and speak to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. So, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I just explained, I think, the difference between the bill you saw earlier in the session and then the bill that stands before you now. But I didn't realize this, but the Virginia State Police had 0 restriction on it whatsoever right now, and they don't today. And I just want to remind everybody how we got here. The bill that was introduced last year by Delegate Aird originally was a local option bill. And it basically said that no locality and no campus police department can use the technology unless the locality adopts an ordinance. That's what the original bill was. And then it came over here on the Senate on the floor. And at that point, the senator from Hanover changed it from a local option bill and a floor amendment to a complete ban. And that went through and then was passed by the House in like 48 hours with like practically 0 local input whatsoever or reaction from stakeholders or anything. And then it was, signed into law. And that's how we got in the posture we're in today. There basically was never a hearing about a ban, ever, anywhere. There was only a hearing on local option. So now that we've had some time to look at this further and digest it, this technology not only is it in use by the state police and has it continued to be in use today, notwithstanding the law we passed last year, because our law we passed last year doesn't affect it, it had been in use in a lot of localities. And I know there's some folks have some concerns, and maybe we're going to debate that some more, like we already did. But I would just note that I suspect that people thought that using radar to measure the speed of your car was an invasion of privacy back when that was first started to be used in the 1950s. I mean, new technology is new and it's different, but it often creates advantages and inefficiencies that help us and help us have a safer society. And I would just note, Madam President, that this bill still has all the safeguards. It's not monitoring. It's not surveillance. It can only be used for specific purposes. I'm sorry. One other thing that we added, which I haven't mentioned, is another thing that got added to this is it's also a Class 3 misdemeanor for anybody to use it improperly, and that was not in the Senate bill. So if anybody uses this technology to go look up their boyfriend or their girlfriend or look up a neighbor or something, they're committing a crime. So that consequence is now in the bill, which was not in the Senate version. I think it's a much tighter version. I think if you were okay with the bill before, you should still be fine, and if anything, you should be even better with it now. So I'd hope we pass it, and I'm happy to answer any further questions there are about it.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax yield for a question?
Will Senator Sorovell yield?
I'll yield for a few.
Senator Morrissey.
First of all, to put this substitute in proper perspective, you are in favor of local law enforcement officers, campus police, and the state police using facial recognition technology for certain uses. Is that correct?
Senator Sorovell.
That's what the bill does, Madam President. So given that's my bill, yes.
The gentleman yield for another question.
Will the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County yield?
I'll yield.
Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. And again, to put it in proper perspective, this technology uses an algorithmic approach to compare images. Is that correct?
Senator Sorovell.
That's my understanding of it, Madam President.
Right. Will the gentleman yield for another question?
Further questions, Senator Sorovell.
I'll yield.
I'd ask
Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd ask the senator to answer this question with specificity if he can. The bill, and I'm looking at your substitute, authorizes facial recognition technology to help identify an individual when there is a reasonable probability that that person has committed a crime. Tell the body exactly how the facial recognition technology will allow campus police, local law enforcement, or state police to identify an individual who is suspected of committing a crime.
Senator Sorovell.
Well, Madam President, first of all, in terms of the state police, as I said, they can already do whatever they want with or without this bill. Without the bill, they're completely uninhibited to use it for anything. But with regard to the others, presumably they would get a picture somehow of somebody theoretically committing a crime, potentially connected with a crime they're investigating. They would take the picture and they would put it in the program and run it through, and the program would come back with a series of matches, which they could then go and see whether it came off Facebook or Instagram or Google Images. I see Mr. Brown is here taking pictures of us. Maybe it might be in the RTD. But that's typically how I believe it would work.
Senator Morrissey, further question?
Would the gentleman yield for another question?
Will the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County yield again?
I'll yield.
Senator Morrissey.
I understand that a picture, it could be grainy or granular, not real clear, has been developed showing somebody committing a crime. I understand that there is a book, and that book could be as large as 43 million images. Does this facial recognition technology allow that grainy photograph or clear photograph to be submitted through that book, those voluminous pictures, to see if there's a match?
Senator Sorovell.
Madam President, I think it's actually over 1 billion images, and yes, I believe that's effectively what they would do. And if the picture was clear enough for the algorithm to process it, it would process it. If it wasn't clear enough, it probably wouldn't work very well.
Will the gentleman yield for another question?
Will the gentleman yield? Senator Sorovell.
I'll yield.
Senator yields. Senator Morrissey.
When you explained this bill earlier in your Senate bill version, you referenced a 98% accuracy rate by NIST. Is that correct?
Senator Sorovell.
I did.
The gentleman yield for another question.
Senator Sorovell.
Sorry, I'll yield.
Gentleman from Richmond City.
Thank you, Madam President. Isn't it true that that 98% accuracy rate was dependent upon a clear, beautiful picture that NIST uses to compare images and not on a granular, grainy photograph that is taken from, say, a camera?
Senator Sorovell.
Madam President, the answer is sort of. If you go look at the NIST study, which I've tried to look at it, they've been doing this program since, I believe, 2001. The most recent report came out in early January, and it's, I think, about 600 pages long. And it's got a whole series of sort of graphs and charts which show sort of how different photographs compare against the database. And I believe they use more than mugshots. I want to say they use 5 or 6 different types of photographs that they fed into it. I'm not entirely positive because it doesn't really have an executive summary you can read. It's just got a bunch of data on it. But I will say that this technology is being utilized and has been utilized by the federal government and lots of other government agencies for lots of reasons for a long time, and they're continuing to use it. So I know this is a long-winded way of answering your question, but for example, if you look at if you've ever traveled abroad and you're part of the Trusted Traveler program like Global Entry, you know, they have your picture to check your ID when you come in to make sure you're not a terrorist, et cetera. And they've been trying to perfect this technology for a long time. And NIST is an agency of the United States Department of Commerce, and it's what we as a society have chosen to rely upon to determine accuracy for this stuff. And if we can't rely on NIST, I'm not sure who we can rely on if that's what you're getting at, but that's my answer.
Senator Morrissey.
Would the gentleman yield for another question?
Senator Sorovell. Will you yield? The junior senator from Richmond Cities.
Isn't it true that recent studies, not a decade or decade-old studies, but recent studies by MIT and the National Institute of Standards has said that this technology works relatively well on white men, but the results are far less accurate when it involves demographics of African Americans? Isn't that true?
Senator Sorovell.
Madam President, I'm not sure which studies you're referencing, but I believe you might be referencing the Harvard study, which I want to say was about, I think it was older, and it focused on older technology. And I would also just note there are dozens of vendors that do this stuff, but there's only 6 that meet the 98% accuracy standard. And so if you're using inferior products, you get an inferior result, and you might get some confusion. But one of the things that NIST certifies is minimal deviation across demographic groups. So the algorithms that might have been a problem in that study are probably excluded from being used in this program. So it's kind of like comparing apples and oranges.
Senator Morrissey, further question?
Further question. Would the gentleman yield for another question?
The gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County, will you yield?
I'll yield.
Gentleman yields. Senator Morrissey.
I'm looking at your substitute, and I'm looking at line 53, and I want you to help me understand this. It says a local law enforcement agency may use FRT, and then it goes all the way down, and it says, but it shall be admissible as exculpatory evidence. Do you see that?
Senator Sorovell.
Where it says a match may be made, a match that is made through FRT shall be admissible as exculpatory evidence. Do you see that?
I see that and remember talking about it on the floor a couple weeks ago.
All right. Further question?
Senator Morrissey, further question for the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
I'll yield.
How
Senator
does
Morrissey.
a local law enforcement agency use facial recognition technology and then use it in a hearing only for purposes of exculpatory evidence? How is that done?
Senator Sorovell.
Madam President, I believe that the senior senator from Richmond asked me some similar questions on the floor a couple weeks ago. But she asked me whether or not this would be admissible in court in a prosecution, and my answer to her was probably not, because somebody would have to lay a foundation, have expert testimony, would be very complicated and probably not admissible. The way this is designed is it's designed to generate leads that can then be followed up by law enforcement, and that's why it specifically says in here, as insisted by the senator from King George, that the facial recognition results cannot be even mentioned in an affidavit in support of a search warrant or in support of an arrest warrant. It is, however, admissible for exculpatory evidence to prove somebody's innocent, at which point I would anticipate they would be probably disclosed during discovery, and because of this statute, it would then be admissible, similar to other evidentiary shortcuts we've created in other situations, but we don't create it for prosecuting, only for exculpatory purposes. So that's how I think it would be used.
Would the gentleman yield for a final question that I think can be answered yes or no?
Senator Sorovell, will you yield?
I'll yield for a yes or no question, I hope.
Senator Morrissey has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Isn't it true that there is no warrant requirement before FRT can be used?
Senator Sorovell.
That's correct. There isn't one today either.
Senator Morrissey.
Speaking to the bill, speaking to the substitute at the appropriate time.
This is the appropriate time, Senator.
Thank you, Madam President.
The gentleman has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm hoping that the body will take a little bit closer look at this. It is quite possible that I may have been wrong when I voted yes on this bill when it first came before us in the form of Senate Bill 741. As my wife would say, it's Joe, it's possible you're not always right. I want you to consider the following. First of all, there was it's a very short story, but I want to share it with the body because I think it demonstrates the inaccuracy of this and why we do not want big brother government in our business. Recently, Robert Williams was in his automobile supply company in Detroit, and he gets a call from the Detroit police. And they say, we want you to come down to receive an arrest warrant. He thought it was a prank. He leaves his company and he goes home first, and as he pulls into his driveway, two Detroit police pull up behind him. They pull him out of the car, they put him in handcuffs, and they show him his picture, a photo, with the words felony warrant and larceny on it. He's taken down to the Detroit station into an interrogation room, and he has 3 pieces of paper are placed in front of him. And before showing him the picture, they say to him, have you ever been to the Shinola store? And the Shinola store is a kind of a high-end store where they sell leather goods and watches, etc. And he says, yes, I was there with my wife in 2014 when it first opened up. And I should have mentioned that Mr. Williams is an African-American. He said, haven't been there since then. Then they put a picture in front of him that shows a heavyset man wearing a St. Louis Cardinals cap, and he's standing in front of 5 watches valued at $3,800 that were later stolen. Then they show him a close-up photo. It's blurry, but it was clearly not Mr. Williams, and he said, and they asked him, is this you? And he said, no, it's not me. And he followed that, and this was all, this interrogation was all recorded. And he said, quote, no, this is not me. Do you think that all black men look alike? He was arrested based on facial recognition technology. Now, subsequent to that, and recently, let's be clear what FRT does, what it's used for. It's not just used to exculpate somebody from a crime, but rather it's used to surveil communities. And if you don't think big government, big brother, is going to end up using this when people go to concerts, churches, synagogues, mosques, into the General Assembly, I think you're mistaken. The most recent studies, not by the Harvard study, but by MIT, the National Institute of Standards, they've stopped using it because of the error. Within the last year, a Detroit assistant police chief raised great concerns, and he said about false positives. He said, quote, false positives is absolutely factual. It's well documented. And he said, so that concerns me as an African American. just last month, professor at Georgetown University, Center of Privacy and Technology, talked about the low quality of search images. So let's be clear what you're going to have. In a perfect world, you get a lovely picture. So, you know, the kind of picture that we put on our brochures when we send out to campaign, and it's beautiful. And you can use this technology to match that beautiful picture. But in the real world, you get a grainy or granular photograph of somebody who may or may not have committed a crime. That is what's used, and that is far from 98% accurate. And I want you to look, just indulge me just a couple more moments. Look at this substitute. And if you look at line 53, it says, a local law enforcement agency may use facial recognition technology, and then you've got to, for authorized uses. The authorized uses are identified earlier to identify somebody who is a suspect of a crime. But look at that last sentence. A match made through facial recognition technology shall not be included in an affidavit to establish probable cause for purposes of issuance of a search warrant, but shall be admissible as evidence, admissible as exculpatory evidence. Look what they're saying. It's admissible in a hearing as exculpatory evidence. If the picture turns out to be bad, or if it's not the person, you never get to a hearing. During discovery, as the gentleman from Eastern Henrico said, you would say, oh, that's bad, bad photograph, bad ID. But it says here, it shall be admissible as exculpatory evidence. That makes absolutely no sense. So at the end of the day, this is what we have. We have facial recognition technology that leading institutes like MIT, Harvard, Georgetown has said is severely flawed. It's going to be used for a myriad of purposes. You are going to be surveilled. And if you're one of the people out there that believe that government is already too big, it's already into our pockets, it's into our businesses in the form of regulations and rules. If you think that it's too pervasive, I would put a heavy pause, a heavy brake on this bill. When this similar bill came through the Senate, it had a large number of nays. I'm hoping that we'll put a pause on this because this facial recognition technology is simply not ready for prime time. I hope you'll put up a nay vote. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. Will the gentleman, the junior senator from Richmond, yield for a brief question?
Senator Morrissey, will you yield?
I yield, Madam President.
Senator McPike, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I asked the gentleman, is it not true that earlier this session he advocated for the location of a facility in Petersburg, which is one of the largest users of facial recognition technology?
Senator Morrissey.
I don't know that the Petersburg Police Department uses facial recognition technology. But I suppose by the virtue of the way the senator asked the question that they probably do.
Senator McPike, further question?
The senator yield for a final question.
Will the senator yield?
I yield, Madam President.
Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. Did the senator advocate earlier this year for a casino in the city of Petersburg?
Senator Morrissey.
I did.
Senator Morrissey.
If nobody else has a question, has another question, I'd ask.
Senator, I'll call you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes again the gentleman from Hanover, Senator McDougall.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, speaking to the bill, to the floor substitute.
Floor substitute. The gentleman has the floor.
Madam President, we've debated this prior to today, and I'm going to make my comments brief and not ask any more questions, but a couple things I want to point out. The gentleman talks about radar in Virginia. I'll tell the gentleman that Virginia is one of the only states that bans citizens from having radar detectors in their vehicle, but we're going to make it so that the government can take your picture and put it in a database and look you up based on billions of images gleaned off of social media, public databases, and wherever they could grab it. Madam President, in this bill, there's no requirement that a search warrant be obtained before these images are accessed. Certainly, if we're doing something that takes your personal biometric data, it should require a search warrant. Madam President, I'd also tell the body that as the gentleman talked about the penalty of a Class 3 misdemeanor if you use this improperly, I'd remind the body that that maximum penalty is $500. There's no jail time, but the maximum penalty is $500. So if you or somebody decides to use this improperly, look up their neighbor that they don't like, look up their children's boyfriend or girlfriend, the maximum penalty would be $500. Madam President, I tell the body that as you look at the veracity of the data, so the gentleman described that NIT's study was pretty extensive, but the database is only as good as what you check it against. And as sure as they checked it against databases that were government-obtained pictures, like your DMV photographs, the facial recognition technology came through at a very high rate. But that rate does not hold if you use it with other pictures, one taken from your cell phone, taken from online sources, taken by the gentleman from the Richmond Times-Dispatch in the paper. And Madam President, I'll tell the body that even though it's a requirement that the algorithm be able to have that high level of accuracy, there is no requirement that that same facial recognition algorithm be used in the technology that's actually deployed in each of these law enforcement agencies. Madam President, certainly we've heard a lot about this already, but I'll leave you with one last piece. And it just came to my attention earlier today that there is a suit in federal court going on right now with one of the providers of this technology. And candidly, Madam President, it surprised me that there are some Virginia issues being argued in that suit. The suit alleges that over 3 billion images have been, 3 billion photographs of facial images have been scraped from the internet to use in these algorithms. And I'll remind the body that Virginia law is pretty clear that in Virginia, one holds a property interest to one's name and likeness. The body might also recall Statute 8.0140A says that you cannot use that likeness for advertising or for the purpose of trade without permission. Madam President, as we go through and put in place something that's sweeping, that has tremendous impact, we should make sure that it complies with other statutes that are in the code, but also make sure that it has the highest level of protections. One that requires search warrants, one that requires the technology not to be used unless it's the highest level of accuracy. And Madam President, certainly one that has a substantive penalty for those who violate it. If you misrun a criminal record or fingerprints, that penalty is at least a Class 1 misdemeanor and you can go to jail. Madam President, I would ask that we not support this bill and take our time to do this the right way. This is a big change. We need to make sure that it's right. One thing the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax and I do agree on is state police shouldn't be doing this either. So I wish I would have picked up on that last year because we certainly would have included it. So that is a positive thing in this bill, but the rest of it needs more time, needs to be structured significantly tighter, and Virginians need to be protected. This bill does not do it.
Chair recognizes Senator Vogel, gentlelady from Fauquier.
Madam President, speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I would just like to take 1 minute to offer perhaps an alternate view. I would like to point out to members of the body that at this point in the world in which we live, with the technology and the video that exists all around you, it is hard to say that you have an expectation of privacy almost anywhere you are. If you are in a store, you're on a video. If you're in this room, you're on video. If you're walking around outside, somebody has their phone and they're taking pictures of you. That is everywhere. And it can be used anytime somebody is doing an investigation in an effort to determine where you are or where you weren't. And so if you spent a little bit of time at least looking at how this technology works and looking at how the algorithms have evolved, I think most of you would be quite impressed with what has happened and with the state of the technology. And I will concede that I am as concerned as anybody about any time that technology could be misused. But I will tell you, I am far more comfortable about creating an opportunity for a child who's been abducted, somebody who's the victim of a crime, somebody who, as we've talked to in this case, the shopping cart murderer, whose picture can be identified using this technology. Why would we want to make it harder? That's all I'm asking for the body to consider. That this is a technology that exists, and certainly it is far better than the grainy photograph that somebody's going to have on their iPhone, or maybe even the grainy tape that they're going to play for you at the convenience store or at the grocery store. All of that is being used. And I would argue that this is a technology that is more sophisticated. And I know that there were guardrails that were implemented and intended to be utilized here. And I would also say that if you don't pass the bill, then you aren't addressing the issue that's been raised with the state police. So I understand the sensitivity and I understand the concerns expressed, but I would also tell you, having seen how this technology has been used to protect and to save victims of crime, I would say it is worthy of your second look. Thank you, Madam President.
The chair recognizes the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. Just in an effort to speak to the
senator has the floor.
Just to connect the dots, I understand that the gentleman from Prince William County referenced a casino in Petersburg and the suggestion, unstated suggestion, that they use FRT. Let's be clear. The bill talks about, on page 41, the state police. On line 53, local law enforcement agency. Line 64, local law enforcement agency. Line 84, chief of police. We're talking about government using FRT to invade our lives, not a private entity like a casino. I guess that was the purpose of the gotcha moment. We're not talking about a private entity. We're talking about local government, police agencies using FRT, which I find that I was speaking against. Thank you for the opportunity to speak twice, Madam President.
Chair recognizes again Senator Somerville, the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. If nobody else desires to speak, speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, there's a lot for me to address here. So first of all, if there was anybody to be worried about, it would be private entities using this stuff for private purposes with no guardrails at all. And the senator from Western Fairfax, I think it is, Senator Marsden, he had that consumer data protection bill. I mean, that's the data abuses that I'm really worried about, at least with the government. You got FOIA, you got the Constitution, you got all kinds of other statutory restrictions. With the government, there's a lot more protections and accountability for the consequences of misusing data, first of all. Secondly, MIT study. The MIT study was a study where they did a one-to-one measure, not one-to-many, apples and oranges. Facial recognition technology in this bill is one-to-many. It's not one-to-one. And so it's not a proper way to measure the accuracy. I would also note, I was asked a moment ago about what NIST does. NIST looks at visa images, something called application images, border crossing images, mugshot images, and then another thing called wild images. And then they run it through these through its paces. And when it comes to wild images, the NIST study says that wild images are, images with a lot of graininess problems or something like that. I've lost it now in the report. But if you look in the NIST report, they take this grainy stuff and they run it through and see how it works. NIST is dealing with these issues, okay? Now, with regard to search warrants, the reason that I believe, the Senator King George can speak for himself, but I believe that the reason that he wanted the facial recognition stuff excluded from the affidavit was to ensure that the government went out and got other information to verify that the person was involved in a crime. So I think the reason it's excluded is exactly the reason that the junior senator from Richmond is worried about, is to make sure we have other things tying the person to the crime besides what the computer says. I would also just note that this isn't surveillance. I believe that the senator from Fauquier sort of eloquently summed up how we're already being surveilled, but this isn't surveillance. It's not monitoring. All this stuff's already out there. These companies have it. This is all about the government just doing a quick comparison. I would also further note, with regard to the statute that the senator from Hanover brought up about using your own name and likeness, yes, there's a lawsuit pending. It hasn't been found to be valid. It survived a motion to dismiss, but it hasn't gone through discovery. It hasn't been really tested in a court of law like that. But just think for a second. If Virginia law prohibits a company from using your picture for anything, then why hasn't everybody in this room filed a class action lawsuit against the RTD for every time they put our picture in their newspaper? I mean, that isn't how it works. The statute is, the law is not that restricted. Go on Google. Is Google using your image go type your name in on Google and click on Google Images. Are there any pictures of you there? Has anybody brought that lawsuit? I mean, this stuff is out there. And by the way, if you want to use unregulated facial recognition technology, I would suggest take a picture of yourself and put it in the Google image search and see what comes back. It comes back with stuff. That's really crappy facial recognition technology, but it's there. Or you can take your picture off Facebook and search it backwards on Google and see all the places that other people have taken your Facebook picture and put it all over the internet. And are they getting sued? No, because that's not how it works. So, Madam President, that statute, I think, is a red herring. I would also just note that with regard to the false positives, the anecdote that the junior senator from Richmond told, we covered that in the first General Laws Committee hearing. And a Fairfax County retired detective testified that his understanding was that was older, non-98% accurate technology and bad policing. And I have here an article from TheVerge.com where it says the department itself has acknowledged that Williams' arrest was based on sloppy investigative work and other mistakes, not bad technology. So it was bad police work. I would also just note that if people are concerned about inaccuracy, lineups, identifying criminal defendants, suspects in lineups has been found to be about 60% accurate. If people are worried about accuracy, then why haven't we banned citizen lineups? They cause all kinds of false accusations. And Madam President, which brings me to one of the things I think is most exciting about this is I think it will reduce false accusations. I think it will result in fewer people being improperly charged because they've been misidentified. I mean, I just got called literally last week by somebody who got falsely accused of something, and if they had been able to run a picture out of a video system through a database to verify it wasn't him, he probably wouldn't have been charged. So now he's having to spend a ton of money on me to go prove it wasn't him, which I'm going to do. But this happens more often than you think. And the last thing I would say, Madam President, which I believe the senator from Fauquier mentioned this as well, is that the Virginia State Police right now can do this with zero guardrails. Zero. And if we don't pass this bill, they're going to be doing it with zero guardrails for the next 12 months. Now, that, if you're concerned, that ought to give you concern. having zero guardrails versus having the guardrails set forth in this orange substitute. So, Madam President, I would hope that we could pass this bill today, and if people continue to have concerns, the local government, the local police departments are required to put out reports showing what they've used it for, what the results were, whether they had problems. You can look up those reports, and we can tweak it going forward. We'll have a lot more information to work with from across the Commonwealth. I hope we'd pass the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye.
The question is on the floor substitute.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a floor substitute voice vote. It was a little hasty on the draw. The question is, shall the floor substitute be accepted? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The floor substitute is accepted.
Madam President.
Senator Surville.
I'd move the bill pass, and having been previously explained, I don't think I need to explain it any further.
Now we are on passage. The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 27, noes 13.
Ayes 27, noes 13. The bill passes.
Uncontested calendar House bills on second reading.
Chair calls on the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all House bills on second reading on the uncontested and regular calendar, pages 32 through 37, that's House Bill 6 through 277, that the rules be suspended and the second reading of the constitutional title, the second constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the second reading of the titles of House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 32 through 37, House Bill 6 through House Bill 277, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. The senior senator again from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I now move that those bills go by for the day.
The question is, shall the House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on third reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will now go by for the day.
Uncontested calendar House joint resolutions on second reading.
Chair calls on the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all House joint resolutions on second reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 37 through 41, that's HJR 4 through HJR 51, that the rules be suspended and the second reading of the titles be waived.
There are 21 resolutions. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the second reading of the titles of the House joint resolutions on the uncontested calendar, pages 37 through 41, House Joint Resolution 4 through House Joint Resolution 151, be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The reading of the titles is waived.
President.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you. If it's not too late, on page 5 of the calendar, having voted on the prevailing side of Senate Bill 683, I move we reconsider that vote for purposes of an...
We need to go back to the day first.
It's in the block, if I'm not mistaken. We'd have to, isn't it? Page 5. Let me find it. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. It was unfinished business.
Senator McClellan, we have to finish this section and then we'll come back to you. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I now move that those House joint resolutions be passed by for the day.
The question is, shall the House joint resolutions on the uncontested calendar now on third reading be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolutions will go by for the day. Get back to it. Now calling on the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Madam President. On page 5, having voted on the prevailing side by which we voted on whatever we did, the House amendment to Senate Bill 683, I move we reconsider that vote for purposes of an abstention.
Without objection. And this is a recorded vote. We will now reconsider the motion by which Senate Bill 683, the amendments were agreed to. Those in favor of that motion, the amendments that were passed by the House, will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. It is now reconsidered. The gentleman from Western Fairfax County, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we accept again the House amendments that merely removes the clause from the bill. Thank you.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 683, with the amendments passed by the House, be agreed to? Those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0. Rule 36-1.
Ayes 39, no 0. Rule 36-1. The House amendments are agreed to.
Page 41.
Returning to page 41. Uncontested calendar, Senate Joint Resolution on first reading. Senate Joint Resolution 134, designating April in 2022 and in each succeeding year as Scots-Irish Heritage Month in Virginia.
Chair now calls on the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I inquire the clerk, does that complete the calendar for today?
Yes, sir.
Ooh, thanks. Awesome.
Very awesome.
Chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for 2 points of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, the first point. First, on Friday, the CDC updated guidance with regard to recommendations of universal masking, indicating that 70% of Americans should be able to remove their mask indoors. However, individuals with an increased risk of severe COVID-19, such as immunocompromised individuals, should speak with their healthcare providers without removing masks if they live in a medium-level county or area. People in high levels of COVID-19, which is 37% of U.S. counties right now, should continue to wear masks in indoor public settings, including schools, according to the CDC. For your information, the levels in proximity to us are, for medium levels, Richmond City, Henrico, Hanover, and Chesterfield. High levels are Petersburg and Dinwiddie County. With this being said, given this new guidance from the CDC and not ultimatums or demands from unelected members of this body, the process for removing the plexiglass enclosures will be completed no later than this afternoon. If there are those who wish to keep the enclosures, please so advise the clerk. To pinpoint the clerk as the source of having these plexiglass enclosures and as the source of one's anger has been unconscionable. If one wants to pinpoint anger, then do so at me. Having been raised with 7 brothers, I can take it. Okay. As the senior senator from Richmond stated on Friday, the Senate clerk and her staff have gone above and beyond the call of duty to ensure the safety and welfare of each of us over the course of the past 2 years. And we owe her and them a depth of gratitude for having done so. So thank you, Madam Clerk and ladies and gentlemen. My second point, Madam President. On Friday,
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam. On Friday, February 25th, Governor Youngkin released a statement condemning the recent bomb threats to Virginia's historically black colleges and universities, such as the one received at Hampton University on Wednesday the 23rd and Norfolk State University on Friday the 25th, preceding the governor's statement. Colleagues will recall that I addressed this issue of the bomb threats to HBCUs at the beginning of Black History Month and the context in which these threats were being received. Further, NSU had received an earlier threat in January, yet there was no call for action to protect the institution. In his statement, the governor said he intends to ask this body to pass emergency funding for, quote, security and campus safety, end of quote. While I agree that it is imperative we fund these measures and intend to vote for any legislation doing so, I find it ironic that the governor is quick to respond in a reactive manner while pushing legislation and executive orders that deny this body and the educators of the Commonwealth the ability to act in a proactive manner. Executive Order 1, which you have heard me condemn both on the floor of the Senate and in committees throughout the session, specifically prohibits the teaching of any history that threatens to cause an individual by virtue of his or her race, skin color, ethnicity, sex, or faith to believe they bear responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race, ethnicity, sex, or faith. Given that the individuals carrying out these bomb threats have been identified by the FBI as tech-savvy juveniles, and these threats appear to be racially motivated, I ask, how did those young people learn such hatred that they would threaten the lives of thousands of people? That, my friends, is rooted in history. As an educator, it has never been my intent that the white students who enter my classes are made to feel responsible for the actions of their forefathers. But it is my responsibility to make them aware of the facts and impacts of those actions. In a public education committee last week, one senator raised concerns about white mothers who called to complain that lessons being taught about enslavement caused their sons to feel shame. Well, imagine Ruby Bridges' shame. Oh, by the way, Ruby Bridges was 6 years old, as she was spat on and picketed for simply walking into a school. Or my niece's shame for being told just 2 years ago in an honors history class by a white teacher that her class they were all going to work at 7-Eleven, or calling her school a ghetto school. It was further stated that some of these mothers were offended over the teachings on the impacts of white privilege and unearned advantages, and mothers were worried it caused discomfort for white students, some who returned home in tears upon learning of their history, a history that includes facts about young black children who never returned home to their mothers because they were murdered by racists who were offended that black children would dare to reach for an education. I will never celebrate the sadness or shame of any student, but I do believe there are important lessons that accompany it. The truth must be told, and we are all responsible for telling it. African-American poet Maya Angelou once wrote, "History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again." And today, I hope this quote will inspire others in this body to stand alongside me and demand that we end this misguided attempt to hide our history under the guise of divisive concepts, and urge each of you to call upon the hypocrisy of Governor Youngkin. The security of our HBCUs comes not in the form of armed guards and bomb-sniffing dogs, but in the classrooms of the Commonwealth, where we face honestly the history of these attacks, where we encourage empathy and understanding from white students who must understand how the actions of ancestors have long-reaching consequences, some of which we still suffer today. Campus security should not have to rest in the hands of law enforcement officers, but in the hands of school administrators across this Commonwealth who are bold enough to teach the hard lessons, to face the wrenching pain so their students do not grow up to repeat the actions of the past, including making bomb threats to HBCUs. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
I'm good, Madam President. I must have touched it inadvertently. I apologize.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Hackworth. The gentleman, it's been that kind of a day. The gentleman, do you wish to speak, sir? No. Gentleman, the chair recognizes the gentleman from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I rise for an announcement.
The senator has the floor.
On behalf of Senator Deeds, I'd like to announce that next Tuesday in the afternoon we'll be interviewing judges at all levels, district court, circuit court, court of appeals, and Supreme Court judges. Before that, though, to the extent that there are consensus names for these judges, please let Shannon Hurd know who these people are by 5 o'clock on Thursday, March the 3rd. Thursday, March the 3rd for the consensus candidates for various judgeships. Okay? Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Peterson, the gentleman from Fairfax City.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise on a point of personal privilege. Today's February 28th, the last day of Black History Month, and I wanted to call attention to somebody from my home of the town of Fairfax who had a significant impact on our community. We'll tell you a little bit about his life. Benjamin Franklin Payne was born in 1867 in Madison County, Virginia. In 1886, his father Lewis purchased a number of 5 acres of land right where West Ox Road goes by Fair Oaks Mall today. Ironically, it was the scene of the Ox Hill battlefield, and they started a family farm. Reverend Payne was born there, and then he raised up, and he was had 9 children. Let me just name them: Richard, Clarence, Benjamin, Leonard, Simon A. Tana, Eastern, John, Antonia, Virginia, and Mary. Reverend Payne became the Baptist minister at Mount Calvary Baptist and was the minister there for years. I actually knew him. I didn't know him. He died before I was born, but his son, Aitana, was someone that had a very close relationship with our family and somebody we had a great respect for. He actually drove the school bus when the schools were still segregated, would pick up the children and drive them to the high school in Manassas. And my grandmother would remember telling me about him because I remember going to Aitana Payne's funeral as a young boy. Anyways, it was a family that established itself and remains established. If you grew up in the town of Fairfax like I did, you knew the Payne family. They were very active both at Mount Calvary Baptist and in the community, children attending Fairfax High School. And so one of the great things we've done in the last couple of years in the town of Fairfax is rediscovered an African-American cemetery, which had frankly fallen into a little bit of disrepair. It's right off of Germantown Road in Fairfax, and had been established in the 1880s when African Americans were not allowed to be buried in the town cemetery. And we've uncovered over 100 headstones, and our Historic Society has basically had events to recognize those folks, including Reverend Payne, that were buried there. And it's really been a wonderful collaboration between my church, also Mount Calvary Baptist, and other people of faith. And it's given me the opportunity to go back and speak to people and to recognize Black History Month. So, again, I just want to draw attention to Reverend Benjamin Franklin Payne, 1867 to 1950, a son of Fairfax, and someone to recognize for Black History Month.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for 2 points of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
The first is a very personal point, and that is to let the body know that my wife Ashley and our baby boy are doing well, and I just wanted to thank everyone for their kindness. So the folks at Roanoke Memorial were wonderful for her, and I appreciate everyone in this body being so kind during that. And my second point of personal privilege, Madam President.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. My second point of personal privilege is also about someone from Roanoke. A few weeks ago, when the senator from Spotsylvania brought a memorial resolution for Governor Linwood Holton, I made reference to the fact that we in Roanoke were proud that he brought a few other people from Roanoke to Richmond with him in his administration. And today I want to tell you briefly about one of those individuals, and that was Bill Robertson. And in 1968, Bill Robertson was the principal at Hurt Park Elementary, which is a school there in Roanoke, and he got a call from Linwood Holton, who was a friend of his who 3 years earlier had been the unsuccessful Republican nominee for governor. And he called up his friend, Mr. Robertson, and asked if Mr. Robertson would resign from the Roanoke City Democratic Committee, which he had been a member of, so that he would be able to run the next year as the Republican nominee for House of Delegates in Roanoke. And he did. And he was the Republican nominee. And despite Governor Holton being very successful that year and having some great numbers in our part of Virginia, unfortunately, he was not successful in the House of Delegates election. But 3 days after that election concluded, now Governor-elect Holton called Bill Robertson and asked if he would accept an appointment to his own senior staff. And he accepted. And it was like a lot of positions that we're all familiar with here in Richmond, where the title of advisor that doesn't have as many different things going on with it often are the people that are involved in everything. And that was the sort of position he had to offer Mr. Robertson. One of the most important things Mr. Robertson did was advise the governor about various state agencies. And he discovered that the sources of why there were no black state policemen here in Virginia. And he went to the head of the state police and asked him why, and he was told that there weren't enough applicants that were qualified, and that was the situation. So Mr. Robertson went on his way, found some very qualified applicants, made sure they applied, took the test, and he had 3 people that scored outstanding on the test so that they would regularly be offered a position. They weren't offered a position, so he went back to the head of state police and asked why, and the head of state police now said there were no openings. Mr. Robertson took this information to Governor Holton, who then called the head of the state police and brought him in. And shockingly, all of a sudden, those 3 state policemen were hired very quickly. It's amazing what a governor can do. And that wasn't the last state agency that ended up being integrated because of Bill Robertson's efforts. After that, several other state agencies saw the benefit to doing this. And after his work here in Richmond, Mr. Robertson went on to work for 5 United States presidents' administrations, presidents of both parties in a wide variety of roles. And we're very proud of his ties and his beginnings in Roanoke. And something that I'm looking forward to reading when we adjourn here in a few days is his recently published memoirs called Lifting Every Voice, My Journey from Segregated Roanoke to the Corridor of Powers by William B. Robertson and his helpful co-authors, Becky Hatchard Crabtree. And that just came out this month, and I look forward to reading it, and hope some of you will too, and we'll have an opportunity to hear more about another great Roanoker. Thank you, Madam President.
The chair now calls on the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. As we close out Black History Month, I want to talk about the purpose of history. As the poet Lin-Manuel Miranda says in Hamilton in a lyric, who lives, who dies, who tells your story? History is a story about us. What shaped us as a people, as a community, as a commonwealth, as a nation. And the importance of teaching a complete, accurate history, the good, the bad, and the ugly, is not just for the sake of memorizing dates and events and names, but understanding how things that happened in the past, decisions that were made in the past, and events that happened in the past impact us and our communities today. I'm troubled by the interim report and directives from Governor Youngkin that were issued on Friday, the last Friday of Black History Month, not just because of the implications it has on what history can be taught. Because just because something is uncomfortable or inconvenient doesn't mean it wasn't true. And doesn't mean it does not continue to have an impact today. And the fact is that over 300 years of slavery and Jim Crow still impacts Virginia, and particularly Black Virginians today. It's 400 years, over 400 years of Virginia's existence still impacts our native tribes today. And whether we like it or not, decisions made decades and centuries ago creates inequity. Inequity seems to be what critical race theory means, because everything that was identified and taken down from the Department of Education's website was related to addressing inequity in our education system. Whether we like it or not, decisions made, whether it was the Racial Integrity Act of 1924, whether it was redlining, whether it was bulldozing neighborhoods for the sake of urban renewal and creating ghettos in their place, destroying neighborhoods with highways, partition sales, segregation, created pockets of poverty. It created communities that weren't educated when their schools were closed, in some areas for over a decade. It created disparities in maternal health, where today a black woman is more likely to die from pregnancy and childbirth than a white woman. It created issues of environmental injustice, where low-income and black and brown communities were more likely to be sites for projects that pollute their neighborhoods. And the point of the educational equity efforts was to address inequity in our education system. Because over 300 years of impact of Jim Crow did not go away like a magic wand when the laws were changed. And we have to meet our students where they are. We cannot assume they all start from the same starting block, because they don't. We cannot assume that they all have a straight path from when they show up in kindergarten to when they graduate, because they don't. It's not based solely on the color of their skin. It's based on what's happening in their home and in their community, which was shaped by decisions made by this body and local bodies. We cannot put our head in the sand and assume they'll go away. And there are a whole lot of adults, every one of us in this room, who were not taught a complete, honest, and accurate history. And yes, it's uncomfortable when a family has to talk about its trauma. But our Commonwealth, the family of our Commonwealth, and all of our communities will never heal if we don't acknowledge, talk about, and address the impacts of that trauma. We need to do that in education, healthcare, housing, criminal justice. And if it's divisive, it is up to us to do it in a way that is inclusive and respectful of everyone that is impacted by our decisions. Thank you, Madam President.
The chair recognizes the senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, you've heard several times today that this is the last day of Black History Month, and I feel it's appropriate to recognize not only the past, but the history that's making right here and right now. Madam President, just a few years ago, and I won't say how many, a baby girl was born in the country of Jamaica. At a very tender age, her father immigrated to the United States with an entire $1.75 in his pocket, and he went about looking for work to better his family. Now, the young girl, when she was only 6, left Jamaica to join her father and worked hard in school and built up her voluminous body of knowledge that she possesses now. And after she reached the appropriate age, she enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. She completed Marine Corps basic training and was trained as an electrician and served in the Corps in that capacity. And after completing her military service, she went about making a life for herself and for her family. Now, this incredible young Marine veteran decided that her service to our nation and Commonwealth had not been completed. So she filed to run for elected office from the city of Norfolk as a Black Republican. And in keeping with her work ethic, she went door to door in her Norfolk House of Delegates district and spent countless hours visiting with folks who lived in her district and would delight in holding their babies and their toddlers on her lap as she talked about what was important to those constituents, what was important, what they needed, and what they wanted. To the shock of most political experts, she prevailed and was the first Black Republican woman to serve in the Virginia House of Delegates. She was in the same freshman class as myself, and we learned a lot together. She distinguished herself by being calm yet a firm presence in both our caucus and on the floor of the House of Delegates. And after one term, this former Marine felt called to pursue other interests and did not seek re-election to the House of Delegates, and went on to raise her family with her husband, Terrence, also a former Marine. The couple moved to Winchester, where she and her husband created and ran a successful business. A woman of great and abiding faith in God, she settled into work and enjoy life with her beautiful family. As a testament to her incredible faith, she and her husband suffered an unspeakable loss when her daughter and 2 granddaughters were tragically lost in an automobile accident. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's documented that upon learning of her enormous loss, her first words were, "The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." And then she collapsed like any mother would. The one saving issue that comforted her was that her daughter and her grandbabies were wrapped in the arms of Jesus, and she would see them again. This Marine made a couple of attempts to run for office, but was unsuccessful in her other political pursuits because I'm convinced that God had a plan for her and her family. In June of 2021, Winsome Sears won the nomination to be the Republican candidate for lieutenant governor, running with Glenn Youngkin and Jason Miyares, the most diverse ticket in the history of Virginia. And in November of last year, the vote was counted, and Winsome Sears became the lieutenant governor-elect of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and the first African-American female elected to statewide office in the history of the Commonwealth. In January, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears became Madam President of the Virginia Senate. She embodies her faith as well as her Marine Corps motto, which is, which we all know, Semper Fidelis, always faithful. And in keeping with her Marine Corps training, when a scoundrel absconded with her gavel, she improvised, adapted, overcame when she gavelled us in with her high heel shoe. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I consider it an honor to serve alongside Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears. I considered it an honor in the House, and now I consider it a great honor to call her Madam President in the Senate. And as I said at the beginning of this point of personal privilege, we are witnessing Black history being made right here and right now. And isn't it an honor? Semper Fi, Madam President.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Thank you, Madam President. Right, for the purpose of an announcement.
The senator has the floor.
Congratulations, Madam President. And Madam President, the tribe is in town. So I will hope that you and your staff and my colleagues in the Senate, after you finish wrestling with committees this afternoon, will join William and Mary for their reception at the Library of Virginia today at 5:30. Thank you, Madam President.
The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Northern Fairfax County, Senator Howell.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
A few minutes ago, I was absolutely transfixed by the senator from the county of Roanoke's discussion of Bill Robertson. I was transfixed because he was somebody I have known very well, he and his wife, Johnny. And I suspect it was during all those years that he was working at the federal level that he lived in Reston. And he was a tremendous leader in Reston, along with his wife. And he set up the Sister Cities program for us. He was on virtually every board that existed, and Reston has a lot of boards. And I think the reason he came to Reston and loved it so much is that even though it's not a city, it's not a town, it's nothing but sort of a place, a dream that some of us have had. But we were also the first community in Virginia to have an open housing policy. Anybody who wanted to come there could come, could live. There were no restrictions, and we were blessed by many African Americans who came to Reston, and the Jacksons were clearly among the very best. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Madam President, I swear I have not touched this button. And I must also say, Madam President, I have a point of personal privilege now.
The senator has the floor.
That I may be known to be a prankster every now and then. But I'm going to find out who did this, and I'm going to get them. And they may be running for Congress, but they will be running from me for the rest of this session. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Madam President, and congratulations.
Thank you.
I rise for the point of a personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Today on the front steps of the Capitol, our governor was planning on having a cut the grocery tax rally on the Capitol building steps, but unfortunately, due to a credible threat, had to be canceled and moved to the Family Foundation. And I wanted you all to know that because it is a concern. But I would also tell you that there were some really important points that were brought up, or would have been brought up, had the governor been able to speak today. State government has seen massive growth in Virginia on the backs of Virginia taxpayers, and it's only getting worse. We just found out last week that Virginia is collecting $1.25 billion, and that's with a B, in unanticipated tax revenues this year from Virginia taxpayers, on top of the additional $3.3 billion in unforeseen revenue we learned about last month. Looking at just the state government paid for by the general fund, which does not include any increase in federal funding or other revenue streams like college tuition payments, the state government has grown from $20.5 billion in fiscal year 2018 to $23.6 billion today. By 2024, it will be $28.8 billion. Madam President, that means that without significant tax relief, these general fund collections will have grown by over 40% from the start of the Northam administration to the end of this budget cycle. This is not acceptable and not sustainable. Virginia families cannot afford it. Inflation is at historic highs, and nationwide, the year-over-year increase in prices across all items on the Consumer Price Index was at a 40-year high in January. The gasoline index was up 40%. The food index was up 7%. The energy index was up 27%. Utility gas is up almost 24%, and used cars and trucks were up 40.5%. Governor Youngkin's proposal is simple. Of the roughly $13.4 billion in unanticipated revenues the state will collect in this budget cycle, immediately send $5.3 billion back to the taxpayers. That will provide immediate relief for Virginia families and businesses, but it will also slow the growth of government in the long run and give the private sector the opportunity to create high-paying jobs. Specifically, Governor Youngkin's Day One game plan calls for eliminating the grocery tax, doubling the standard deduction to lower income taxes, providing a one-time rebate, eliminating taxes on $40,000 in veterans' retirement income phased in over 3 years, providing tax relief targeting small businesses, and rolling back the laxed increase on the gas tax for 1 year. Altogether, that will bring a typical Virginia family almost $1,500. Altogether, that will bring a typical Virginia family almost $1,500 on the first year. A tax-paying family of 4, 2 parents and 2 kids would benefit from a one-time $600 tax rebate and a $518 ongoing cut to their taxes, plus $300 off their grocery bills by eliminating the grocery tax and reduce prices at the pump by rolling back the gas tax. Just like the promise he kept on the mask mandates, Governor Youngkin can only get this done with the ongoing support of everyday Virginians fighting for what's right. It's our money, not the government's, and we've got to fight to keep it. And oh, by the way, Virginia's economy is not performing well despite record tax collection. Virginia has yet to recover the same number of jobs prior to the pandemic, and labor force participation remains at record lows. And Madam President, I would conclude by saying fewer people are working, and more people out of the labor force altogether does not indicate a growing economy, especially considering Virginia's competitor states have seen significant net job growth since 2020. It's so important that we cut the grocery tax for Virginia families. They're counting on us to do the right thing. Thank you, Madam President.
The chair calls on the senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a very brief point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to respond to some of the dialogue going on about tax and spend issues and where taxes should be cut and what services should be funded. You know, the Wasson School of Civic Engagement at Christopher Newport University did a very comprehensive poll covering all parts of the Commonwealth, and I think individuals from both political parties were polled. And more than half, 56%, felt that when you look at tax cuts and compare it to the services that must be cut, Virginians wanted services. Virginians are making the connection that tax dollars are in fact needed to fund our public schools, to give teachers a raise, to fund public safety, to ensure that we have good environmental programs. All of those things require public funding. Although Virginians do want accountability and transparency, that is much more likely to come with a public agency that has to be accountable and is held accountable by representatives like you and I. Private entities don't have anywhere near the accountability or transparency that public agencies have. So this, love affair with sending dollars to private agencies and thinking that somehow we're going to get a better service has simply not been the case. So I just caution lawmakers to actually get some facts and understand what the impacts are, and don't just buy a philosophical view, lock, stock, and barrel. We have serious decisions to make. We represent a wide range of constituents. We are held accountable, and we need to take our job seriously, peel back the onion, look at the issues, and make sure we're not trading off values that are important to our Virginians. Thank you, Madam President.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Hearing none, the clerk will now report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Monday, February 28th, the Committee on Commerce and Labor will meet 30 minutes after adjournment in Senate Room A, Pocahontas. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Higher Education will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment in Subcommittee Room 2, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Locke, Peterson, Cosgrove, Hashmi, and Pillion. The Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Health and Human Resources will meet at 4 p.m., Subcommittee Room 1, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Howell, Hanger, Vogel, Barker, Deeds, Eben, and McClellan. Tomorrow, Tuesday, March the 1st, the Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Claims will meet at 7:30 a.m., Subcommittee Room 1, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Edwards, Lucas, Vogel, and Peterson. The Committee on Finance and Appropriations will meet at 9 a.m., Committee Room B, Pocahontas. Democratic Caucus will meet at 11 a.m., Senate Room 1, Capitol. The Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m., Senate Room 2 in the Capitol.
Chair calls on the senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Madam President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon on tomorrow in memory and honor of Adam Oaks.
The question is, shall the Senate adjourn until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow in memory of Adam Oaks? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow.